Click on Start. You go to Excel. Give it a few seconds, and there we go. So Microsoft Excel opens. And as you can see, just like with Microsoft Word and any Microsoft product, they always give you some nice templates that you can also use. In our case, we're just going to use a blank workbook. All right, and there we go. So you've opened a blank book, and now you can see all the features of Microsoft Excel. If I click on Save, it's going to ask me where do I want to save to. Because of the OneDrive, it always wants to save it on the cloud. But in our case, we don't want to save it on the cloud. I'm just going to give it a name quickly, my assignment, and then I'm just going to say, give me more options to save. All right, in my case, I can just say desktop for today. Please take note, just like with any Microsoft product, when you select it, you can then see all the different versions of the document that you can save. The very first one is the latest version. Then you've also got Excel 2007, 2003, it's the older version. And you can see there's a whole bunch of options, including Mr. PDF. So if you do need to do an assignment in Excel, you can save it as a PDF as well. Okay, and then automatically it will convert. In my case, I'm just going to save it on my desktop and I click on Save. Okay, so saving, pretty straightforward. I've given it a name and that's how it works. Now, once you've saved, obviously you can then go and edit thereafter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on File and I'm going to see my recent Excel documents popping here. If you don't see it here, you can always click on Open and go find where did you save your work. Okay, for example, I'm going to use my exercise for today. All right. The first thing you're going to notice about Excel, it has something called Sheets. At the bottom of your screen, you'll see I've just renamed it, Start Here, and More Exercises. If I click on the little plus sign, it's going to give me a new little sheet. So basically, it's a separate working area where you can actually work in. All right. And that's a nice thing with Excel. So you can go quite a number of sheets. I think it's about 26 or so, even more probably. So you can actually do separate calculations and whatnot per sheet. If you want to rename it, you just simply double click. It goes into editing mode. And for example, you can give it a name and say enter. Okay, and then you've given your sheet a name. So Excel has sheets. And when we save the file, it's saved in what we call a workbook, which basically a workbook is the complete document that, or spreadsheet in this case, that contains worksheets. Okay, so that's how this function works. Okay, so let's go have a look here. So now we've got the A, B, C, D all the way going across, and it goes all the way far, far, far to the left, just keeps going, 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 going. All right, and then you've also got your numbers that go all the way down, so you can scroll all the way down. It's like 60-odd thousand. Okay, so those are your rows and your columns. And where rows and columns meet, that's what we call a cell. Okay, now if I say to you cell C3, there it is. So I use the columns and I use the rows to sort of give me a coordinate where the cell is located. For example, this cell then is E4. There's the E column, number 4. Okay, so that's how the cells work in terms of the locating of them. And you'll notice over here, it also tells you what the name of the cell is that you're currently in. For example, let's say A2, enter, and there we go. Column A, row number 2. And there's my little active cell is waiting for me. Okay, and then the first thing we're going to look at, and then you can see there's a whole bunch of features over here. We call this the home ribbon. And you'll see there's different ribbons here based on the type of information or things that you want to change. For example, if you go to Insert ribbon, then there's all the different tools that you can use, like the chart, which I'm going to show you later. All right, so let's go back. All right, to merge cells means to join. So to make one or more cells into one bigger cell. So let me show you how that works. So you're going to have to select at least 2 minimum. And then you'll see there's an option over here saying merge and center. If you click on the little arrow, it'll actually give you all the other differences as well. So merge and center, And now you'll notice the cell has changed. It's become bigger. So now you'll see when I move my mouse and I click on it, you'll see the size now changes. Right, let me do it even a bigger one. I select the cells, just like formatting, you always select first, then you click on merge and center, and there we go. Now, by default, it will say merge and center, but you can also left align, center align, and right align. Then you'll notice there's something a little bit different here as well, which basically says your top or middle and lower or bottom align. In other words, how do I want the information in here to appear? Okay, so by default, it's at the bottom. It's in the middle, in the bottom. So I can use my left, center, and right align. So there we go. Now let's change the alignment itself. So now I click on middle align. Now it's there, and top align. But if I want them both in the middle of my little merge cells, there we go. Then I can use these two options to get it looking like this. Okay, so this is basically how your merging of cells works, and it goes hand in hand with some of these tools that you can see already. What happens if I don't want this anymore? That's easy. You just click on merge cell again, and it takes you back to the original configuration. All right, so you can pretty much do rows and columns just like that. So you can even go create different little ideas if you want. Or if you can take them away, you just simply select and click on merge. Okay, so that's how your merging function works. It's quite important, especially when you've got data, and I'm going to show you a little bit later when we can merge to make things look neater. Okay, now here's something interesting with Excel. When you're typing in numbers, automatically it aligns itself to the right-hand side of the cell. When you type in text, whatever it may be, okay, that wasn't a good example. It's better. Then you'll see automatically it's on the left-hand side. So the alignment of text is quite important. So to the right and to the left. So that's how that works as well. The other thing with numbers is if I click on it, you'll see there's an option over here, quite a nice little option here that you can go play with. You got your different decimal places, and you see by clicking on it, it actually can give me decimal places. You can change how it looks. You can put in a comma if you want. There we go. Now you can see how it's changed. Then you can put it into a percentage or a comma, and then you can also put it into currency. Now there's a lot of currencies that you can use, but by default, it's going to pick up normally American dollars and South African rands. So if I click on it, now you can see it's changing already. So if I go click on this little arrow over here, it actually gives me all the different things that it can do, including date and time and whatnot. So if you want to put in a date and time, you can also put it in this way. Let's try that out. Today is the 8th of September. And automatically there it's already adjusted. Okay, by default it will do that. You see it says custom. Then let me say a long date. There we go. And you noticed immediately something happened. Because the information is bigger than the cell, it automatically said to me, okay, I'm going to make my column bigger. Right. It's going to change the width. Now, if you have a look here, cells, height and width. This is one element of Excel that we can now change. For example, if I move between any columns or any rows, you'll notice your mouse cursor turns into a black arrow. If you click and drag, you can see their numbers on the screen. It's busy saying width in pixels or in millimeters. If I click and I drag, you'll see it actually changes. Now, this is also very interesting. Notice this has turned into a hash, hash, hash. Okay, so that basically means you do not have enough space. So therefore, I don't know what to do. I'm just flagging to say there's a problem here. Consider merging. All right, so I don't want this column to be too big. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to select the cells and I'm going to say merge. And guess what? Now your text is back because I've merged the cells and now it's functioning like this again. All right, so you can change the column widths just like that. Clicking, dragging. If you want something precise, you can right click on it. You can go to column width. Remember, right clicking now. Hey? All right, and then you can type in exactly what you want. You know, okay, I want 20, please. And then it'll adjust it to exactly that amount. Okay, that's useful if you're trying to get things neat and tidy. With your height of your cells and your rows at least, you can also do the same. All right, so if I click in between and I click and drag, now I've made it bigger. Okay, you can see it's changed. I can also right click and go to row height if I want specifics, let's say 25, and then I can put it in like that. And there we go. Now you can see that you can adjust your columns width and your row height, just like that. Okay, now here comes a nice interesting point. If I wanted to print this out, how do you think it's going to look? Do you think all these little lines are going to, the intersecting lines are going to appear? No, they're not. Let me show you. If I go to print, look what happens. Can you see it's just going to print the text? It's not printing the borders, the grid lines. Okay, so remember that. Okay, so what can we do if we wanted to actually print something in? Well, it's very easy to do. You can select your text, and then you'll see here's the border option over here. And it gives you all sorts of different borders that you can use. For a simple one, if I say all borders, it then basically creates a table, okay, with your data. It makes it look a little bit more neat and tidy. If I go back to my print, now you're going to see, okay, it's not quite fitting in. Let me change my orientation to landscape. It's basically how your printer is going to print your document. And there we go. Now you can actually see there's my table that I've created. Okay, and you can see the borders. Now it's clear. The other text, you can see, it's just text in the middle nowhere of your page. Okay, so just remember that borders will help make things neat and tidy. Okay, now next thing, print preview. Okay, I've just showed you that and how the borders work as well. Okay, cool. Now the next thing we've got this little table that I sort of put together over here. But what happens if I don't want my text to look this way? We've got something called a cell orientation. In other words, how do we want our text to be displayed? So let's have a look. If I click on daily, and then I can look at my options over here. Because now you saw I couldn't print this information in the first time round. It didn't have enough space, so I had to change my orientation. But what happens if I want to keep the original orientation? Now I can come and look at all these different options over here. All right, there we go. Now you see the text is going straight up. Let me do weekly as well. And there we go. All right, so now you're saying, okay, I don't have that much space available, but I would like to change how my columns look. Now here's the thing, have a look. The table cell size has not changed, but it's saying to you that there's lots of space here that we can now use. So all I'm going to do is, if I wanted to automatically align for me, I'm just going to double click in between the columns. If I double click between these two, there we go. If I double click for the next one, whoops. Aha, why? Because orientation says, okay, fine, I want this much space. Oops. So what can we do? Okay, we'll solve that one. Same with J, same with K. And now you can see it's lining them up nice and neatly, and it's actually looking pretty cool. Now, orientation, I'm going to use my mail merge again. Okay, merging cells. Now when I do it, can you see? Now it says to me, okay, I've got plenty of space. You've merged those cells. I don't need all that space anymore in just the one column. You can now align this perfectly and get rid of those free space. So that again shows you how merging cells can help you create a nice looking little table. So it's managing your spaces. That's kind of the key here. All right, there we go. So you've got daily, weekly, monthly, yearly. Now it looks fitting now pretty nicely. All right, let's go back to that preview again. Okay, remember I changed the landscape. Now I can change it back. It just about fits in. I think it's about one column too many. Okay, but that's fine. You get the idea, I'm sure. So we can just move the table up a little bit. All right, in that case, if I wanted to delete something, for example, I don't need column F anymore. You can simply click on it, then right click on it and say delete. And what will happen is everything from the right is going to shift up. And there we go. Let's go now see our print preview. And there we go. So by deleting that free space I had there, now the text is fitting in nicely. Of course, yes, you can go change with your margins, the space between. You can go adjust that if you really needed to. But in this case, we just wanted to show you if you delete a column, what happens to the text. It moves around. Okay, so that's pretty cool. So now we've managed to fit everything on one page. All right, let's see, there's nothing below. Okay, good. Let's go have a look at more exercises. Okay, so question 2, we want to look at functions. Now, one of the good things with Excel is it has functions, things it can use. All right, let's have a look here first. Can you see this table of mine? Reading E, I'm not sure what that means. Phone call and walk in E something. Okay, so how can I quickly move this up? Very easy. Double click between the A and the B, and there we go. It moves the text. Okay, nice. Right, so let's say generating values. The first one we can do is January. The nice thing with Excel, it actually picks up and it tries to understand what you want. If this is January, I'm assuming this will be February, March, April, May, and June. You'll notice there's a little black or green block in my case, right in the corner, bottom right-hand corner of Excel. That is your copy and drag function. So if I move my mouse there, you'll notice it turns into a black arrow. That is perfect. That means if you click and drag now, I'm going to start generating something for you. So I click, I drag, and you can see automatically it's already generating what it assumes is next. And I let go. And just like that, January, February, March, April, May, June, it's automatically generated the data for you. Okay, so that's one very nice function. Okay, let's go see now the next thing, the average function. Okay, so you look for your little sigma. We're still on the home ribbon. There's your sigma. If you click on it, it's going to give you a whole bunch of different functions. But in my case, I'm looking for average, and there's average over there. I click on it, and then it says to you, you can see the little ants. We call them the walking ants. It looks like a little ant trail happening over there. In other words, it's saying, okay, this is the data that you want. Is this correct? And I say, yes, it is. Notice it says from B3 all the way to G3. So there's B and there's G, and then we're in row number 3. So from there to there, that's what you're telling it I want the average of. And that's perfect. Then you can hit enter. And then it gives me an answer. Okay, so that's pretty cool. Now here's another cool thing. Once I've done a calculation for this row over here, I don't have to go the long way and put it in again. I can simply say this formula you've already calculated for me, and I want it to flow just below. So all you have to do, again, you go to your function key, which is at bottom right-hand corner, wait for the black cross to appear, click and drag down, and automatically it's going to create the average, but for the next row. Because I copied down, the formula will automatically move down. If I copy across, then the formula will automatically move across. So always remember that. It always goes in the direction that you're copying. And there we go. Okay, but this middle one doesn't look very neat if I look at the other two. So let's just get rid of some of those decimal places. Now this one doesn't have a decimal place, so let me add it in. But now again, you got to play around. Okay, now that looks neat and tidy. Okay, so again, you use your decimal places. All right, so that's how we use the average. Let's do the sum. So there I click on it, but this time I'm going to use this little function. Okay, lots of the same things you can do in different ways. Okay, click on insert function, and again, it's going to give you a whole bunch of functions. There are so many functions you can go and look for, guys. There's so many, but it normally picks up the ones that you've recently used. By clicking it on this bar, you can actually move it around. Okay, right, so now I'm saying I want the sum function. I actually picked it up immediately. I click on OK. Now it says to me, okay, what exactly are you looking for? Because currently I'm seeing from B3 all the way to H3. Now that's a bit of a problem because now we're including something that we don't need. Okay, so then I'm going to say to no problem, let me delete what you've given. You can just use backspace on your keyboard. I just want from January clicking and dragging to June. Okay, so now you use the click and drag function. Click and I drag all the way to June, then I let go. And now it adjusts over here. And it says to you, okay, this is what we're seeing that you want. This is actually the answer that we're going to produce. Does it even make sense to you? In this case, yes, it makes perfect sense. Then I can click on OK. And there we go. We've done the sum function just like that. Okay, now let's do it again. Now we want the sum for this information and this information. Great, so what are we going to do? Again, you click where you've got your formula ready. You go to the bottom right-hand corner and you click and you drag and you let go. Let's have a look. So there you see it's B3 to G3. The next one is B4 to G4. And the next one is B5 to G5. If I click inside of it, it will automatically highlight what information was used. All right, so that's pretty cool. So now you can see just the basics of formulas, how it actually all functions together. The key is understanding how the marking system works in terms of the rows and the columns and actually how the function works over there. And just remember the direction you copy the formula in is automatically then going to adjust the calculation in the same direction. All right, so that's pretty cool. Basic functions. There are a lot of other functions that you can also go and try out. All right, now we're going to continue again generating values, but this time we're going to look at sequencing. Now we already showed you January, and you can go all the way to December if you want. Now I'm going to show you the weekdays. So once you put one in, it can automatically generate the rest. Now the little difference is with numbers. You can write two numbers, you can put them together. It basically needs to understand what's the difference between in order to generate the sequence. So if it's 1, 2, then definitely the next one will be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it's basically just counting for you. Okay, so that's a nice and easy way to do that. Now I've got 50 and 60. So now the difference is 10. Okay, if I select, I need to select both cells, and then I go to the bottom right hand corner and I click and I drag, and it's going to calculate the next value based on the difference. So 60 plus 10 is 70, plus 10, 80, plus 10, 19, so it carries on. Okay, so this is how this little guy works. Pretty cool. Especially if you have to go to generate a lot of numbers or information, months and days, then you can quickly do it that way. Right, the next thing we're going to look at is your formatting. In other words, you've got a table of information, all right, and you just want to make it look nice, neat and tidy. Okay, first thing we've got to clean up is the spacing. So in between B, in between C, you just got to double click. All right, and there you can see now it's a little bit clearer. And now I can see all the information as well. To format the table, again, you can just select your text. And then we've got this nice little tool over here saying formatting table. And what it does is it basically gives you a whole bunch of different options that you can actually go and use. All right, so you can go check through them. For example, I like this one and I click on it. And then it says, do you really want to do this? You say, okay. And there we go. Sometimes you'll notice it even puts in functions. Okay, by default, that really does it for me, which is really, really nice. The very first row in the table that I selected, it assumes these are the headings. So in other words, now I've got sales and claims accounting cells. If I needed to change this information very quickly, I can simply click on the option. It tells you this is what you've got available, which one you're looking for. I can unselect and let's say I just want the people that work in sales. I click on it and I click on OK, and then you'll see your table adjusts. It hasn't deleted anything, guys. It's simply just filtering, hiding what you don't need to see. If you look at your columns, in your rows over here, you'll actually see that certain rows are now missing because it goes 16, 17, then it's 21. Okay, so it's showing you that certain data has been hidden because you're using a filter. And you'll notice there's a little icon saying now this is what you're doing. Right, can I have more than one? Yes, you can. You can select as many as you like. For example, if you wanted sales and claims, there we go. And then the table automatically adjusts. So this is really, really cool stuff to do in Excel, especially if you've got about 6,000 different emails that you need to send and you want to find out which students wanted to attend Excel. That's an easy way for me then to generate just the Excel students. Okay, so that's a nice way to do, and you'll find this under formatting. As I said, there are lots of different options in here, so you can play around and see how it looks. Okay, so that's pretty cool as well. Now, the next thing we're going to do, I'm just going to move a little bit across. I just want to delete some of these things that are in the way. The next thing we're going to do is definitely the most common thing you can find in Excel is creating a graph. Okay, so there's a couple of rules with graphs. When you've got your data, it's always ideal not to have spaces in between. In other words, I shouldn't have any space between the January and the first values. Okay, it doesn't like those spaces, and it actually makes it difficult to create the graph. So try to group your information like this in one nice little block of information. Please take note, if you're going to add the average and the sum, your graph is going to behave very differently, depending on which type of graph you're going to use. So be very careful which data you're selecting. But the easiest way to create a graph is just like this. You select your data that you want in terms of the important columns and the rows information, and there we go. Then I can go across, and then I can click on Insert. I just went across because I know where I want to put it. Then it says Recommended Charts. So that's probably the easiest thing to do. You click on it, and basically what happens is Excel, using the data it's seeing, tries to predetermine this is what you actually want to do with the data. So that's actually pretty cool. So there we go. So if I've selected the data, this is your actual data already, hey? And then it says you can do a bar chart or a clustered column, or you can do a line chart, a stacked chart, or stacked column, stacked area. So you can see all the different options it actually gives you. Based on this data that is already selected, it's giving you a preview. This is exactly how it's going to look. All right, for interest's sake, I'm going to take the very first one. And then you'll see there it says reading emails, phone calls. So it's really creating a very, very nice information for you. So I click on OK. All right, and then you notice it's going to pop it in just like this. So there's your legend. Okay, so everything in blue is emails for the months. Everything in orange is your phone calls. And the walk-in inquiries was gray. So there we go. All right, now there's a couple of things we can do to make this chart even more fantastic. Let's go and change the chart title. Okay. Now we've got to give it a name. Let's see, we've got data in here. I'm trying to think of a name. It's a very good one. Okay, I'm just going to call it My Data and to June 2020. Okay, so let's just say you're going to be doing a presentation. So there we go. We give it a name. So there we go. Awesome. It looks just like that. Okay, so that's pretty useful. Now, what else can I do? Here's a nice, interesting feature with this system. If you right click, but now you've got to be very careful because you'll notice that everything in here has a function. So if you right click on things, it gives you a different menu. Okay, so be careful where you're right clicking. Try to aim for the white sort of areas away from everything else. Because if you right click there, then it's going to give you all the options that you can actually do. All right, for example, you can go change your chart type. You can go select different data if you really wanted to, and you can even move your chart. So let's do that. Let's move the chart to its own sheet. So if I click on it, it's going to say currently you're an object. An object is something that has properties, and you can change those properties like pictures, like charts. Okay, so those are objects. So I'm going to say to it now, I don't want the object inside this sheet anymore. I actually want it to have its own sheet. So remember, the sheets are over here at the bottom. And I'm going to call it My Chart. And I click on OK. So now it moves that chart. If I go back to where I was, the chart has now moved and it's become into my own sheet. Now you see the space, it's moved it right over here. If you click and drag, you can actually move it around. In other words, if you want it to be the last sheet, there we go. I just moved it around. Okay, but now if I look at this chart, it's nice, it looks good, but how do I see exactly the values? Yes, I can put my mouse there and then it will pop up. This value is 36. This value is 73. So there I can get an estimate. And if I leave it there, it actually tells me what it is. If you're doing a presentation, you're not going to be having a chance to put your mouse there and wait and then hope that the value pops up. In that case, I didn't even do it. There we go, 64. Okay, so if you're doing a presentation and you need to see the values, or the person that's looking at your chart wants to see the values very quickly, then we can actually make an adjustment. Right click on any of the columns. There's your data labels option. Oops, and then you can say data labels, add them in. And there we go. There you can actually see the numbers popping up there. You can actually do it for each one. So you're going to have to right click. Please note right clicking on each data source. And there we go. Ding, ding, ding. Now you can actually see the values in there as well. So that will make life a little easier. I just want to zoom in a little bit. It's a little bit closer. So there's your zoom option if you just saw what I was doing. Okay, so that's pretty cool. Now what happens is, okay, this looks good, but you just want to make it look a little bit nicer. If you click over here, basically Excel says to you, okay, we can make this thing look pretty cool if you want, like this, just like that. You'll see your legend spacing is now moved, okay, which is quite cool. You can also click and drag it. You can move it around like that as well. Okay, so it's totally up to you to put it where you want. That's a little bit tricky trying to select it. But there we go. Now you've seen I've changed the chart just like that into this funky, cool looking chart. All right, so there's lots of things you can actually go and do with charts. Okay, there's also color options and whatnot. So you can actually go and really have some fun. And there you can see in real time, and there's even the previews has changed because I changed the chart color. You can even go play around with the elements. Okay, add them in, remove them. It's totally up to you. Grid lines if you want. All right, so these are the type of things you can go play with. These are a little bit more advanced Excel. But there we go, guys. This is pretty much Excel in a nutshell. We've actually had a look at quite a lot of features, but the more you practice this, the easier it becomes. Okay. If there are things in Excel that you would like to really know, there's a very, very good website which has got very detailed videos on how to do everything in Excel, including the older versions of Excel, not just the latest version. Okay, I'm just going to wait for the internet to catch up with me. And I do suggest make sure you use this website. So it's gfclearnfree.org. Okay, gcflearnfree.org. And there it is. You can click on it to take it to the main web page, but I see they've already got Excel there for me. So if I click on it, it's going to take me directly to the support specifically for Excel. This is an OER website, guys. There are loads of free things that you can actually come and learn. If you click on the topics, just to show you guys, there are all the topics that you can actually go cover. As long as you've got internet access, they are 100% free, and it'll teach you everything that you need to know about the product. For example, there's Google in your Google Docs, for example. You can actually go learn these things. There's Excel formulas, so go and check that one out if you want to learn more about formulas. All right, so everything is sitting in here. It's actually a very nice website. And if I click on tutorial for Excel, these are actually the tips. Then they actually give you some nice tips that you can work through, for example, using Format Painter and AutoSum and all sorts of things. So this is a very, very useful website. And of course, you can go watch the videos also on YouTube. So check it out, gcflearnfree.org. It's a very, very useful website.